Hi and welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how we can set up a camera, how we can also set up a third-person character, and the VR component of Unreal Engine. So let's jump in.
So to start off, we're in the scene here and we're going to need to add a few things. We're going to start with the third-person character, and when I go to my content drawer, I'm going to add this third-person folder. This is available from the resources at the beginning. So I'm going to right click in kind of a blank area and go to add feature or content pack, and then click on third person and add to project. So this is going to bring in a mannequin and an animation and all of that sort of data that you're going to need. This also gives me the opportunity to point something out. We haven't talked about levels yet. So in that third person folder, you're going to see a third person level. And let's jump into it. Levels are just like they are on a video game, right? They're different places or locations or maps or whatever. And this one comes with a player start already, and it's pre-set up for you to run. So you should be able to just hit the play button up here, rotate your mouse a little bit, and then use the W, A, S, or D commands to move around. So just basic controls, and we won't get too far into the details about what this is like or what you can do to customize it, but I just want to set up so I can cruise around my space in third person. Going back over here, let's go all the way to the top, and we're going to use this filter to search for levels. And if I turn this off and then back on, it'll show all of my levels. And what we didn't do at the very beginning was set up the VR template. This is our main project. So let's right click it now since we're not in the level, and we are going to rename it. I'm just going to call mine Runway. Let's go back over to Runway now, and we can bring in that third person content. So I'm going to go back to the third person folder here. I'm going to turn off the filter for levels, and there's all of the stuff that I need. So we want to add a third person character here. Let me just show you first what's available, and it's really simple. There's the character, there's the third person mode, and then there's the player controller, and we'll get into those a little bit further in another tutorial. But let's back up one more. And the other is just a colorway. So there's not much to it. And since you want to set this up and get it functioning right away, let's do a couple things. We'll go over to Window, and I'm going to open World Settings. And you can also do this from the Edit menu, but I like to have it here. One thing we need to have set up in the beginning, if we're going to use the third person, is the BP third person game mode override. And that's all you need to do with that. Just remember, if you're going to go into VR, you'll want to switch this back to the VR template. And now we can go up to the plus menu, type in player start, and it'll just plop it in there. This is what it looks like to start with, and we're going to get a little bit more into this as well. What this thing is a capsule component. And that bad size thing just tells you that you're colliding with whatever surface is below you to start off. So you want to be just outside of it. Also, it has a directional arrow. So this one, that blue arrow right there, that tells you that you're going to be facing the opposite way. So let's rotate it. And then we can jump in, just hit play, and we'll have a character in here. Again, I'm just going to orbit for a second, and then I can hit W, and I can move about the space. Now I put a light behind the stage just to show you what's going on here. The character does run quite a bit, so it's kind of hard to control right at the beginning. But you can see they're just standing right there on that platform that we made, but yours isn't going to work this way, and that's because at the outset we need to create a collision for our object. So if you find the object here, you can right click and then browse to the asset, double click on it here, And this opens the editor for that object that we made. You can hit collision, and if you don't have it already, hit box simplified, and that will create a collision for that object. And then yours should work. So now that I have that set up, I should be able to step up on the object, no problem. And then even walk down, and I already set it up for the stairs. So later on, we're going to use animated characters, but the third person, pretty easy to use, and just walk around the space. So the next one I want to show you is adding a cinema camera. And so I've deleted that player character. I've left my world settings with the BP third person because it doesn't matter. And right now I'm going to come in and go to the plus sign, find a cinema camera actor, and that drops it in. And again, these are directionally focused. What you have here is a viewport, so that shows you what the camera is seeing. And they sometimes come in below the screen, which is, kind of weird. So just have to find yourself in the scene and place it. So this is a basic cinema camera. If you want to move it around the space with the gizmo controllers, you can pin it right here. So now I can kind of move it around and see what it's seeing. And let's face it on the opposite side and position myself by rotating it around, looking straight down the runway. And if we want to keyframe this in position, I'll show you how in a sec. So let's move it forward and start in kind of close. If you want to pilot the camera, so in other words, you want to actually be in the camera itself, you can right click and pilot cinema camera actor. And so this is pretty cool because you can see what's in focus or what's not. What I like about that is drilling in and finding my focus controls. Just type that in, and you can do manual or automatic. Automatic sometimes works better, but this little thumb, this little focus tool here allows you to click on objects and focus on them, which is cool, and it will maintain focus on that object. So if I go back in space, that thing will stay in focus until I'm out of range, and whatever was that close before will stay in range. So that's handy. But if you're less concerned about focus and you want to do a tracking or disable, you can do that. So if I go over and do a tracking, I could actually track to that exact object. And that's cool if I have a character who's going to be walking through the scene and I want to maintain the focus on that actor as they move through. So right now the actor to track is the curtain fabric, and that will stay in. You can scroll through and see all the different settings that it has, but the big one that is probably most important is the aspect ratio. 16:9 is a standard widescreen or HD size, but you can do all kinds of different ones. Or say you want to do a social media version, you can do custom. Go in here and then you can change the width and the height. That's the camera. And say for example you wanted to track a light along with the camera, like this one here. If I click on this, and I'm going to get back out of piloting the camera. So if I go back up and I find my camera, right click and stop piloting, I can reselect that there, and I can parent this light to the cinema camera by dragging it on top of it. And now when I move this camera, I zoom out here, you'll see that the light moves along with it. And that's sometimes handy too, especially if you want the camera to move exactly with the model in space. So the next thing about the camera that's important is the sequence, and up here is a sequencer. If you click on that, you can add a level sequence and you can give it a name. What I like to do in the top level here is create a cinematic folder. So right click, new folder, and then I'm going to give it a name. And now I've created a sequence, and in the sequencer are basically where all of your actors are going to live that will be part of the sequence. And important to that is the camera actor. So we won't always want to drag the camera actor into the sequence here. And of course, because we've just selected on it, we're now piloting it again. So I'm going to right click and stop piloting. If I have a scene where I'm going to start up all the way over here and move my way backwards, I'm going to do all of that action in the sequencer. And we have our frame rate, which I will lower to 24. Inside of that, I have all of the different camera component things that I can change, such as focus. I can keyframe the focus in and out, but I could also do just your basic transforms. So location, rotation, etc. So I'll just set a location keyframe here, come down a little ways, and set a new keyframe at the end, not very far away. Same as most software where you have a keyframer, you also have an automatic keyframer. So I think that's this one here. When something changes, let's turn that on. It will change the property. So that keyframe is now changed. And we can always preview it here. So let me move the sequencer out of the way, and we'll watch in the window here as it plays. Pretty basic animation, right? So you're just pulling back. This is the duration, or how many frames are in the scene. This is your zoom control. And this button right here controls this as well. So if you don't like using the long slider, whatever, you can manually add in however many frames you want. So one thing that's important to remember is if you have a sequence that's you want it to be longer, say, and you pull this marker out, you're also going to have to drag out the duration of the camera. So whenever you're going to render something out, say for example, you'll want that camera to last as long as your sequence. And so in this case, we'll be able to see that last a lot longer on screen. I'll get more into the cinema camera after, but that's the basic setup, and I'll show you how to render from this later. However, there is a quick render option here. So create a new camera, or sorry, quick render option right here. And I believe there's also one, nope, right here. So this is a quick render. So if you want to spit something out really fast without a lot of setting changes, just hit that little button. So we are going to connect the MetaQuest 3s to Unreal Engine. These things are a notorious pain in the ass, and once you get them hooked up, they're fine. They work great in Unreal, but getting them to link to your computer sometimes can be real buggy. So I'm going to just show you one quick fix that Christopher Wolverton here at the University of Nebraska helped me out with. We are going to use the Metalink cable, and we'll jump in here. And first thing you're going to want to do is plug in the USB-C both to the headset and the computer. Then let's open the MetaQuest app. And if you haven't added a device yet, it will say add headset right here. And when you click into it, you'll be taken to a choice where you could add whichever one you want. I'm going to skip out of here and go back to my devices. This one's already set. By the way, today is October 27th. If you are having a problem, make sure you're online. This took me all weekend to figure out. Public test channel, enable this. It's going to reboot your app. It's going to install a temporary update. And that's going to be really important because this whole link thing will never work. Also, we're going to make sure in general that unknown sources is checked on, and that allows Unreal to use it. So then we're going to go to devices here, and it says that it's active and linked up already automatically. Let me go inside here and record. A couple of things you can have set up in advance. Quick link, come over here, and then you can link to the PC, and if it is connected, it will show this as connected, and then you can launch Link. And your screen will look like this as it loads. Boom, and now you are ready to be in Unreal Engine. Let me back out real quick and show you one other thing. Quit Link. In this menu here, you can go up to Settings. And all the way at the bottom here, go to Advanced. And then scroll down, and I think we want to have Developer on. But also seamless multitasking is good. So those are the other ones. You can also auto link. That's what mine did. It automatically linked. So sometimes I toggle that on and off if I'm having trouble with link working. But should be working now. We'll just get out of here and link back up. And now we're ready for Unreal Engine once we get to that grid screen. So now we're in, and we know that our goggles are paired. Let's just double check first. In devices, they're active, and we have a green dot here on the Quest 3. I can minimize that. And since we've already set up a VR template, we can come over to the three dots on the right, click VR Preview, and that will bring us into the VR space. And if I put on the headset, I can look around. But right now I have the BP third person in here, and I can't really move around. That's because I need to change the world settings. So we'll turn these off real quick, hit Escape, come up to Window, go to World Settings. We're going to change this to VR Game Mode. And now we'll be defaulted to using a VR pawn in this. And we have the little green with the VR symbol on there, so we should be able to see now. And I'm in the space. I can look around and it's fine. And I can teleport around too. So you can see when I hold the joystick forward and I turn around and I release it, it gives me that teleport stream. So now I'm in the space, no problem. Clicking off and escape. Let me just show you something really fast here. If you're unable to get around that space using teleport, you may have deleted something important, and it's this box, one of these boxes here. That's the light mask. Sorry, this one here is your nav mesh bound volume. And what that is that makes it so you can move around a space, and you can see that it's at ground level. Okay, so if we click on the nav mesh bounds, we can see that its location is at 0. It's right at ground level, and that's good. So we want to be just kind of make it wider than it needs to be. If you ever accidentally delete this thing, you can come over and add a new nav mesh. You can type in nav over here and get this nav mesh bound volume. And I'll just drop it up here, and I'll position it and scale it. Make it a little bigger and a little wider, and that'll just allow me to teleport in and around the space. So this is pretty good. Let's double check. So that's how you set up a BP third person, a camera, and a VR experience in this basic VR template on Unreal Engine.